It is the 8th of May. It's Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. How are we doing?
Shem. Okay, good. Let's see, where are we holding here? Oh, okay. Okay, we're up to Maishna Mihad Tnan.
Maishna Meha Disnan. How does this differ from that which we learned in the Mishnah? Matzah Shtare Chov. One finds notes of indebtedness. Im yesh bahen acharayus nechasim. If they contain a lien on the property, lo yachazir, do not return it to anybody. The okimna, and we interpreted that Mishnah to refer to a case kishechayiv modeh, where the debtor acknowledges that the note has been paid.
Has not been paid.
Not. The note is unpaid.
No.
Umishum shema kasav lilos v'nisan v'lo lava ad tishrei. And it may not be returned because perhaps the debtor wrote the note intending to borrow in Nisan, but did not borrow until Tishrei. V'aseh l'mit raf l'kuchos mi Nisan v'ad Tishrei shelo kedin. Thus, the lender may come to collect illegally from purchasers who bought the debtor's land during the interval from the note's date in Nisan until the actual loan date in Tishrei.
Right. Oh, so okay.
Lo amrinan, we do not say no harm will result from returning the note. The im came because if, in fact, the debtor did not borrow on the date of the note as he claims, malva gufe lo shavik, the lender himself would not permit the use of the predated note. The Amar lay, or he would tell the debtor, Kasov Shtara Acharina Besish Ra. Write another note now in Tishrei. The Dilma Sham'e Rabbanan. Because otherwise, perhaps the rabbis will hear that this original note is predated. Umaf Sedei Li. And they will cause me a loss. So the English says, why does Rav Yochanan say that a lender will prevent a debtor from reusing a paid note, whereas we do not say that he will prevent him from using a predated note? But I don't get that because I read up here, Mava Gufe Lo Shavik. The lender would not permit the use of a predated note.
Yeah, but before those words, you have to read the words V'lo amrinan. We don't say that. It is a little bit confusing, this language over here.
Yeah, very confusing.
Lo amrinan, we do not say. What is it that we don't say? Dinkein ma v'gufe lo shavak. That if the that if the lova would I guess that if we would return it to the no one. Okay, before we get into these confusing words, let's try to go over the first part of the statement. What happened? What does the Mishnah say, which is not consistent with what we have said up until now? That's the Gemora's question. My Shna, Mihadet's none. Why are you learning not like the way that we learned in the Mishnah? So the Gemara brings the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say? That if somebody finds a loan document, so if it has achrayus nechasim, if it has a provision to on it that it certifies the collection of land in the case of non-payment, lo yaksir, you don't give it back to the malva, to the lender. And we said that this Mishnah is talking about even a case where the borrower admits that the loan has not been paid. So that generally gives a right to the malva. If the lova didn't pay the loan has come due and he didn't pay it. So that gives a right to the malva if it has achrayus nechasim, a provision in the clause of the agreement to be torn from the kukos. And here we're saying we don't give it back to him because we're worried about this. What are we worried that he's going to do? We're worried about the following possibility, says the Gemora, that maybe this document is dated Nisan, right? And but really, maybe what happened is that the lova had the loan document written up in Nisan, but in fact, the way it happened was that the loan he didn't get until Tishrei, 6 months later. And like that, we're worried that the malva is going to use this document to unlawfully collect property that was purchased from the borrower between the time of Nisan when it was written up and the time of Tishrei when the loan actually was made. Shalom Kadin, and that would be unlawful for him to do that. So therefore, that's the reason why we don't give it back to him. And then the Gemara sort of like does us a favor and says, what is it that we're supposed to see from all of this? But the way it's worded is quite confusing. What do we see from all this, says the Gemara? We see lo amrinin. We see that we don't say like what we said before. Basically, what was it that we said before? We said that the malva would not want to accept a predated document because he's worried that the Bezdin's going to find out that the document that he's using to collect property is a predated document and it's puzzle, and they won't allow him to collect the property. So he's not going to do a loan with such a document like that. And over here, we say that we say that we're concerned about this possibility that he's going to collect in such a case. Okay. Do we have any Rashi to read over here? Mm-hmm. No, we don't have any Rashi yet. Okay, so we don't have any Rashi. So fine. Okay, so yeah. Okay, you want to go on or you want to go over this again? Is it somewhat clear?
It's a little bit clearer to me. I understand the English now.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Roy, good.
Not too sure, particularly as I came in late.
Oh,
So,
okay.
all right. Well, I'll have a look at it again myself.
Okay. So it's your turn to read, actually.
The Gemora answers, right? Omare. Okay.
Right.
Omare, Tem. The cases are not comparable. There in the Mishnah, we are concerned that the lender will agree to accept the predated note. Mishum de Islay since he has benefited from this, we're concerned that the lender will agree to accept a predated loan note. Since he has benefited from this, the tarif lekuchos minisos minisan va'ad tishrei, or he can use the invalid note illegally to collect from purchasers who bought the debtor's land during the interval from Nisan until Tishrei. This deceit is desirable to him. And he will not tell the debtor anything, hoping to avoid detection. Therefore, a note whose date precedes the date of discovery may not be returned.
Okay, so that's the explanation for the case that we just brought in the Gemora. Why it is in that case we don't return it to the Malva, because we are concerned that he's going to he's not going to refuse to take it if we give it. He's not going to be worried that anybody's going to find out for some reason. And now we turn to the case where we say we don't have to be worried about that because the Malva will be concerned that somebody's going to find out about this star, that it's a predated star. Hacha.
Acha, here in the case of Reb Yochanan's ruling, we are not concerned the lender will accept a paid note.
Please.
Kivon delas lay revacho, since he has no benefit from accepting such a note. The soft Shitara idna yidna perceive. For after all, the note was written today, on the same day as the second loan. May over the kotorif, the kurchos, and what could he collect from purchasers of the debtor's land with a paid note that he could not collect with a new note written that day. Bishtar Shenimacho Sheavahudo Lo Shavik. Therefore, the lender will not permit the debtor to reuse the note whose lien has elapsed. And the article continues, for he fears discovery and loss. For this reason, Reb Yochanan ruled that a note dated on the day of his discovery may be returned if the debtor acknowledges that it has not been paid.
Okay, so in this case, yes, you have to keep these two cases in your head. You have to keep two different cases, slightly different cases in your head. Okay, that's one thing you have to do. And then you have to understand what's the difference between the cases. So the Gemora is explaining that in the case where we don't give it back to the Malva, we don't give it back in that case because there's Mishum de Islay Ravcha. There's a profit to be had by him in this, that he's holding on to the shtar. So he's not going to refuse to accept it. What's the profit that he's got? Because in the scenario that we mentioned, we're talking about where the shtar was dated at the time that it was drawn up in Nisan in order to make a loan, but the actual loan was never loaned until 6 months later. So the Gemora is saying that there's a revach, there's a profit that the Malva is going to gain over here by having this shtar, because this 6 month period over here, he's gonna be able to collect from these people that purchased the land from any land from the Lova during this time from Nisan to Tishrei, which is not so in the factual scenario of the case of Rabbi Yochanan. What was the case of Rabbi Yochanan? That we talked about that a shtar was dated Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and the loan was made, and then it was lost on that very day, and it was found on that very day. So that's a case. So now that document, we could give it back to the Malva. Why can we give that document back to the Malva? The Gemara says, "Kevin the Leisley Ravcha," because it doesn't have this long period of time that he could profit by collecting from people who bought from the lokeach. I mean, from the leiva, the borrower. And then so Rabbi Yochanan says that we can't use that second document. Sorry, it's not a second document. There's no second document over here. All there is a second loan. A second loan would be made on that same day, using that same document that was used for the first loan, that in that case, in that scenario, there's no profit to be made by the malva to get that document. Why? Because the Gemora says, "Sof shtar ha'idna ksiv." That shtar was written today, because even the first loan was made also today. So the Gemara asks, "My ikka l'katarif l'kuchos." What great profit is he going to have over here in this, that he's going to be able to use this shtar that the Lova gives him to be tar from the kuchos? There's no 6-month period between the time of the writing up of the shtar and the date that and the actual date that the loan was made, and so therefore he's got nothing to profit by holding on to it. So then we say, oh, he's afraid that the rabbis are going to find out that the shtar is a shtar muktam. So that the Gemara says, "B'shtar shenimchol shibudo lo shavik." He's not going to accept that shtar. This shtar that already has been used beforehand and has been paid off, and so the shibud is now the lien has now been removed from it. He's only going to have headaches from this document if he's going to try to use this against the lekuchos.
You don't, when a shtar has been paid, you don't actually write on it that it's paid, stamp it. So
It's generally torn up.
Yeah.
There's no reason to write anything on it. It's torn up. Here it wasn't torn up.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure out what exactly the point is over here. Wow, it's yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe we have some Rashi at this point.
Okay, let's check.
My ikka the tarif lekuchos. Is that a Rashi? Yeah.
Where are we up to? Lie?
The Rashi that we want to read is, actually, we got this Rashi, Menach Nichale. That's talking about the first case with the 6-month interim.
Are you talking about Menach Nichole?
Yeah.
Menach Nichole. To leave it is good for it? Biramaot, with deception. V'hale, Vatale, Nafshipa, Esfeka. And people are left in doubt. The Omar, they say, Dilma, Lo Shema. Maybe he didn't hear. The Icha, Revacha. And there is there's a balance remaining.
Okay, so Menach Nichole is Aramaic for that it's Noach for him. It's Noach for him to hold on to this star, and we're talking here about the star that is in the case where the document was written in Nisan. So the document was drawn up in Nisan, and the date on the document says Nisan, but the loan actually was never loaned until 6 months later in Tishrei. So what? So in such a case, that's the case that we're concerned about. This is the case that we're concerned about, that we found this document in the shuk. We don't give it back to the malva. Now we're explaining in this case why we don't give it back to him, because we're concerned that it's just too big of a incentive for him to just rationalize and just hold on to it and improperly use it. So Rashi is explaining why is it good for him to hold on to it. So Menach Nichole Beramos, of course, it's a shady deal over here. It's not really a glatt, honest, upright, integrity deal over here. He's doing a deception over here, because really, if the loan was actually not made until Tishrei, that means that really he has no right. Obviously, he has no right to collect from purchasers that purchased property from the lova from 6 months before, based upon the fact that his star says 6 months before, because it's not true that the loan was made then. The loan was only made in Tishrei. He can only collect from the time of Tishrei. Why can he only collect from the time of Tishrei? Because that's when the loan was made. But there's a deception that he could engage in to collect during this time. And then Rashi's saying I think he's trying to explain why it is that he's willing to rationalize like this. Toli nafshe b'sveika. He's going to hang himself and put himself into a case of an uncertainty over here. He's going to be willing to do this. But Omar, and he's going to say to himself like this: Dilma lo yishami. Maybe the rabbis won't hear about the fact that I'm holding on to this star and using it. And why is it that he's doing this? Because there's a lot of profit to be made with this star. He's got the opportunity to collect on the loan that was made from people that during this whole 6 months period. So it's hard for him to resist. It's hard for him to resist this, and accordingly, we're not going to, because we're concerned with this situation. We're therefore, if we find this star, we're not. This is the reason why we don't give it back to the malva. even though the loiva says that he admits that it wasn't paid. Because we're worried that really the loan was actually not paid on the date that it says in the shtar. So that's that case. Okay, whereas that's all the Rashi that we got. Whereas in the other case, let's try to think about the other case now. The other case, we do give it back to the Malva. What's the other case that we're talking about? We're talking about a case where the shtar was found on, and it was dated Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and it was found on Rosh Chodesh Iyar. And Rav Yochanan says that yeah, that's what's confusing over here. Okay. All right. The Gemora says here he doesn't have a revach. Kevin the leisle revach. He doesn't have this same revach, this potential profitable situation over here to collect with this shtar. Because it's a very short time frame for him to work in. It's just the time frame is basically 1 day, Rosh Chodesh Iyar. And then they bring in the fact that they're going to find out. I guess it's easier for the Bezdin to find out in this case that about the first loan, and they'll realize that the first loan that it was paid, and therefore that this shtar it's not usable now. So it sounds like in this case there's not much profit to be made, and since there's not much profit to be made, he's not willing to risk the possibility. It's really the same possibility. I don't see any difference that the Bezdin will find out that the document cannot be used in the way that he's using it, in the way that he might use it, and so therefore he's gonna refrain from using it. He's going to refrain from taking it, really, is what we said. Okay. The Malva himself is not going to accept this shtar and pay and give a second loan, because he's worried that the Bezdin is they're gonna find out that this shtar has already been used for the first loan. So that, okay, so it's have to work it out a little better, really, make it a little bit clearer. Okay, in any case, that's what we got for today.
Okay. Take care. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Phil.
Thank you. See you
All the best,
tomorrow.
Roy and